Right now, there are more than 8 billion humans alive on Earth. Every single one of them has parents. Those parents had parents, and those parents had parents too. If you keep following that chain backwards, something strange begins to happen. 1 generation, 10 generations, 100 generations, 1000 generations. You keep moving farther and farther into the past. Cities disappear, countries disappear, languages disappear, writing disappears, technology disappears. Eventually, you arrive in a world that looks nothing like ours. No roads, no phones, no buildings, no electricity, only forests, mountains, rivers, and humans trying to survive. But keep going, farther, farther, and farther. At some point, you reach a question that sounds incredibly simple, but turns out to be one of the hardest questions humanity has ever asked. Who was the first human? Most people imagine there must have been a moment, a specific day, a specific year, a single person standing somewhere on Earth, the first human being, the beginning of our species. But nature doesn't work that way. A child is almost identical to their parents, and their parents are almost identical to their grandparents. Change happens slowly, so slowly that nobody notices it. Imagine watching a movie with a billion frames. If you compare 2 frames next to each other, they look identical, but compare the first frame to the last, and everything had changed. Human history works the same way, generation after generation. Tiny changes, tiny differences, accumulating over enormous periods of time, which creates a strange problem. If every generation looked almost identical to the one before it, then where exactly do humans begin? And where does something else end? The deeper scientists looked into this mystery, the stranger it became, because the evidence suggested that humans didn't suddenly appear. They emerged through a process that lasts millions of years. To understand that story, we need to travel much farther back than civilization, much farther back than history, much farther back than humanity itself. We have to go back to a world before humans existed at all, before cities, before language, before history, before humans. The Earth looked very different. If you could travel back millions of years, you wouldn't find people. You wouldn't find houses. You wouldn't find civilization. And you wouldn't even find anything that looked human. Instead, you would find strange creatures, ancient forests, massive predators, and animals unlike anything alive today. The story scientists tell begins long before humanity, long before the first human ever took a step. According to modern science, life began in Earth's ancient oceans billions of years ago. Simple organisms, tiny, microscopic, almost unimaginably small. They weren't intelligent, they weren't conscious, they weren't human. But according to evolutionary theory, every living thing on Earth can trace its ancestry back to life forms like these. Over immense periods of time, life changed, adapted, diversified. Some species disappeared, others survived, new species emerged. Again and again and again. Millions of years passed. Then tens of millions passed. These early primates lived in trees. They had forward-facing eyes, flexible hands, and brains that were becoming more complex. They weren't humans, not even close, but they were distant relatives, very distant relatives. As millions more years passed, different branches of primates emerged. Some of those branches would eventually become monkeys, others would become apes, and somewhere in this enormous family tree, scientists believe humans and modern apes shared a common ancestor. This is often misunderstood. Evolution doesn't claim that humans came from modern monkeys or modern chimpanzees. Instead, it suggests that humans and chimpanzees share an ancient ancestor that lived millions of years ago, a species that no longer exists today. The deeper scientists looked, the more evidence they found. Fossils, ancient bones, ancient skulls, ancient footprints. One discovery after another revealed creatures that looked almost human, but not quite. Some could walk upright, some used simple tools, some had larger brains, some had human-like hands. Names like Australopithecus, Homo habilis, Homo erectus appeared in the fossil record. Each species looked slightly different. Each species represented another step in a very long journey, a journey that lasted millions of years, generation after generation, change after change, tiny differences accumulating across unimaginable stretches of time. Then, roughly 300,000 years ago, a species appeared that still exists today, Homo sapiens, us. For the first time, Creatures existed that could build civilizations, create languages, ask questions, imagine the future, and wonder about the past. But even after scientists traced this incredible evolutionary journey, a much bigger mystery remained. Because revolution may explain how humans changed over time, but it doesn't fully explain where life itself came from, or why anything exists at all. To answer those questions, we have to go even farther back, before humanity, before life, before Earth, before the sun, before the stars, before anything existed at all. So, scientists traced humanity back hundreds of thousands of years. They followed fossils, bones, ancient DNA, and evolutionary history. The deeper they looked, the more pieces of puzzle they discovered. But eventually, every trail reached the same wall. Because even if we explain where humans came from, another question immediately appeared. Where did life come from? And even if we explain life, a bigger question appears. Where did Earth come from? And if we explain Earth, the question grows larger. Where did the sun come from? The stars, the galaxies, the universe itself? Today, the most widely accepted scientific explanation is known as the Big Bang. According to this theory, around 13.8 billion years ago, the observable universe was incredibly hot, incredibly dense, and then it began to expand. Space expanded, matter formed, stars were born, galaxies emerged, and over billions of years, the universe slowly became the place we know today. Stars created heavier elements, planets formed, Earth appeared, life emerged, and after an unimaginably long chain of events, humans arrived. But here's the interesting part. The Big Bang explains what happened after expansion began. It doesn't fully answer what existed before or why anything existed in the first place. And that's where different ideas begin to appear. Many religious traditions teach that a creator brought the universe into existence, a conscious force, a divine intelligence, something beyond the physical universe. Different religions describe that creator differently, but many share the same basic idea. The universe exists because something created it. Others argue that the universe may have always existed in some form. Some philosophers suggest that existence itself may be fundamental, something that requires no creator, no beginning, no end. Others believe the true answer may be something humanity simply hasn't discovered yet. And then there is perhaps the strangest mystery of all. You. Not your body, not your bones, not your DNA, your awareness. The fact that you can think, question, wonder, imagine. Scientists can study the brain, map neurons, measure electrical activity, observe chemical reactions. But consciousness itself remains one of the greatest unsolved mysteries in existence. Why are we ever? Why do we experience reality? Why does the universe contain beings capable of asking questions about universe? Nobody knows for certain, and that's what makes this history so fascinating. The story of humanity isn't just a story about where we come from. It's also a story about curiosity. For thousands of years, humans have looked at the sky and asked the same question. Why are we here? Ancient civilizations asked it, philosophers asked it, scientists asked it, religious thinkers asked it, and today we will ask it. Maybe one day humanity will find the answer, maybe we won't. But until then, the greatest mystery in human history remains unsolved. Where did we come from? Why are we here? And why does anything exist at all? Maybe the most important thing isn't the answer. Maybe it's the fact that we never stopped asking the question. Because from the first human who stared into a campfire to the scientists studying distant galaxies today, curiosity has always been the thing that makes us human. And perhaps, whatever the answer turns out to be, the search for it is the greatest story humanity has ever told.